The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications. Item number 1 is approval of the minutes of our April 16th, 2015 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 2 has been removed. Item number 3, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on June 11, 2015 at 5:45 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the third amendment to the development plan for Planned Development Area Number 64 related to Pier 4 project, South Boston Waterfront.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 4, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on June 11th, 2015 at 6 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the second amendment to the development plan for Planned Development Area Number 30 relating to the Clipper Ship Wharf, East Boston.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 5. This is a public hearing before the Boston Redevelopment Authority being held in conformance with Article 80 of the Boston Zoning Code to consider First Amendment to the amended and restated development plan for the Planned Development Area Number 84, Copley Place in the Back Bay. This hearing was duly advertised on April 30th, 2015 in the Boston Herald. In a Boston Redevelopment Authority hearing on the proposed petition, staff members will first present their case, which is then subject to questioning by members of the authority. Thereafter, others who wish to speak in favor of the proposed petition are afforded an opportunity to do so under the same rules of questioning. Following that, those who wish to speak in opposition may do so again under the same rules of questioning. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BRA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. Mr. Tracy will now begin the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Secretary Polhamus, and Director Golden. As you may recall, on October 17, 2013, this board approved the Copley Place Residential Addition and Retail Expansion Project and an amended and restated development plan to PDA number 84, which consisted of 190,000 square feet of new retail, restaurant space, and a four-season atrium space. The project also consisted of approximately 680,000 square feet of new residential space, including a sky lobby with residential amenities and associated support areas for up to 542 residential units. As you can see from the map, the project site is located at 100 Huntington Avenue and is bounded generally by Huntington Ave, Stewart Street, Dartmouth Street, and the Southwest Corridor. Tonight, staff is before you to present the First Amendment to amended and restated development plan for Planned Development Area Number 84. In connection with the development plan for the existing Copley Place, including the proposed retail expansion and residential addition project filed on December 18, 2014 by Copley Place LLC. The PDA amendment and associated map amendment before you tonight would amend the amended and restated development plan to expand PDA number 84 to include areas within the project that reflect the design of the project as it has progressed from conceptual design and to eliminate encroachments onto areas beyond PDA number 84, consisting of approximately 272,310 square feet, approximately 6.25 acres of air rights over the Mass Pike. A presentation of the proposed amendment to the PDA was given on February 26th at the Copley Public Library. The comment period closed on March 5th, but the BRA has continued to facilitate discussions and meetings between the development team, community members, CAC members, and local elected officials. Most recently, the BRA hosted a meeting with the development team and CAC members, members of the community, and elected officials to discuss outstanding issues on Tuesday, April 14th. One of the highlighted concerns that the BRA has heard from the community throughout the process associated with this amendment was the desire to see more affordable housing units within the new residential component of the Copley project. Much of this discussion has revolved around a now expired ground lease with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the development team that had called for 25% affordable units as a result of the original Copley development in 1978. It is the BRA's understanding that this 25% obligation had been met via the Harcourt Street residential project, where 25% of the total units are deed restricted as affordable. It is important to reinforce that the lease as a whole and the obligations within it are all agreements between the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the development team, and that the BRA is not a signatory to that. Nevertheless, as a result of the process associated with the Copley Place residential addition and retail expansion project, the BRA, the community, and the development team have worked together to create all of the affordable units associated with the development on site. When constructed, the previously approved project would have had 71 affordable units on site. As a result of this process and the community's request for more affordable units on site, the developer has agreed to deed restrict 5 more units within the development as affordable, bringing the total number of affordable units to 76 in the heart of the Back Bay. Along with this affordable housing package, the previously approved project will also include a robust community benefits package that includes a contribution to the city's public art initiative of up to $1 million, a $250,000 contribution to the Southwest Corridor Park Conservancy, and a $250,000 contribution to the Friends of Copley Square. At this time, I'd like to introduce Michael Flannery to further the project presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. I'm Michael Flannery from Goulston & Storrs. I represent the proponent. I'd like to introduce a few members of the development team. With me tonight are Steve Bozek, our project manager from Simon Property Group, Bill Kenny, who's the general manager of Copley Place, Donna Camiolo, project consultant from Hill International, and Rob Halter from Elkis Manfredi, our project architect. Also with me tonight is Matthew Kiefer from Goulston & Storrs. As Chris explained, there's a limited purpose to our PDA amendment. That is to modify the boundary of that 2013 PDA area to conform to further refined design of the project along the PDA boundary. No other changes to the project, which is previously approved, are being sought tonight. To put this limited amendment in context, I just want to give a brief overview of the project history. After that, I'll turn it over to Rob Halter, who will give a brief presentation on the design of the project, followed by Steve Bozek, who will present on the community benefits of the project. Copley Place was originally constructed in the early 80s on an air rights lease with what is now the Department of Transportation. The residential addition and retail expansion project dates to 2008, when filings were first made for a project notification form, followed in 2011 by a DPIR, and the original PDA development plan, which were approved by the board in November 2011. That project consisted of about the same amount of residential and retail space, however, consisted of only 318 residential units, of which 48 were to be affordable. In 2013, the proponent filed a notice of project change and a new PDA development plan. The major change in that proposal was to increase the number of residential units to 542. And at the time, there was a commitment to provide 71 affordable units, of course, all on site. This 2013 boundary, however, did not account for certain design elements and wind mitigation elements, though approved in 2013 by the BRA, were subject to additional modification during the design process. We're here tonight to expand that boundary so that these project components can be within our PDA area. Rob is going to be able to give you more detail about some of those elements, but in total, we're adding about 6,000 square feet to what is currently a 6-acre site. That's about a 2% addition to the current site, so relatively speaking, these are minor encroachments over the current line. And as Rob will explain, they are largely design and wind mitigation elements, many of which, in fact, are above grade, but need to be within the new boundary. We recently finalized a lease amendment with MassDOT by which they have changed their lease premise legal description to conform to our new proposed PDA boundary. So those two documents will line up in that respect. Want to emphasize the PDA amendment does not propose any further changes to the approved project. However, as Chris mentioned, in response to the process we've gone through, we have agreed to add an additional 5 affordable housing units to the project, increasing the total from 71 on-site affordable units to 76 on-site affordable units. I'd like to speak briefly to these affordable housing obligations that were in the original lease. As Chris explained, the 1978 lease did require 25% affordable for any residential construction on the site. That was satisfied by the development of the Harcourt Housing Cooperative. Those obligations expired 15 years after the commencement of the lease, so that was 1993. As you'd expect with a major project, we've had extensive public meetings, including 25 CAC meetings, and in total there have been approximately 40 public meetings on the project. Those include the ones leading up to the 2011 approval, the 2013 approval, and as Chris described, 2 meetings leading up to this proposed PDA amendment this year. On behalf of the team, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this project tonight. We're all very excited to move forward on the next phase of this important project, and Rob Halter will now give you an overview on the design.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Director Golden, Treasurer Paul Amos, thank you very much for your time. My name is Rob Halter. I'm a senior associate with Elkis Manfredi Architects. I have had the pleasure of being involved with this project since its inception and gone through each of these presentations. I know several of you were here at the previous presentation in 2011 and the notice of project change. Some were not, so we actually do want to just give you a brief overview of some of those elements to better understand the project.
There's a clicker.
Oh, there is a clicker. Awesome. This doesn't have a laser pointer, does it? That's even better. Right there. Great. That's fantastic. So, as was shown in the aerial view, the project is located here at Copley Place. The primary site for the expansion is out here at the northern entry. It sits directly across from the Back Bay Station and the Southwest Corridor, and is a primary circulation path in and through to the Prudential Center, as well as other neighborhood features. The project is quite complex due to the air rights nature. Below the project, specifically to our expansion, is the east and westbound lanes of the turnpike, limiting the amount of ground area and foundation structural elements. We also have the off-ramp system for the Stewart Street and Huntington exits from the turnpike, which make their way through the project entirely. We have the Amtrak line and CSX line that heads out to Worcester below the project. And then also immediately adjacent to and below the entry to the project lies the Orange Line as well. So you can see from the complexity, we've got plenty on our hands. The PDA, as it was defined previously, is the gray area. So you can see here how it lies on the site, with this being Stewart and this being Dartmouth. The areas that are in the light blue represent the areas that we are adding to the PDA expansion. I do want to point out that these areas here to the lower portion of the site are existing building elements that were never included in the original property boundary. And so we're kind of cleaning this up by just including those. Those are not a new component to the project. The areas that lie here to the north consist primarily of below-grade elements for utility connections. Because of those below-grade turnpike elements, we don't have any ground to bury things, so we have a utility duct that runs along the north side of the project below grade. And we also have here, as mentioned, wind mitigation elements that were developed and presented during the project design review. So as a brief overview to the design, we really have not modified any of the design elements. We've only brought them to fruition through the construction document phase. Here you see a view from Copley Square looking back towards the project. We have a retail base and the residential tower sitting above. This is the Stewart Street view. The area that I pointed out in plan for the utility connections is here. It does have some landscaping over top of it, but that's one of the primary areas that we're including in the PDA. One of the other features that you see here is the front canopy element that helps mitigate some of the downwashing and the wind. We studied that extensively and worked to mitigate those conditions at this corner specifically. All of these elements were presented during the earlier phases. In addition, we have an entry here, which we worked very closely with the Mayor's Commission for Persons with Disabilities and the community to provide a barrier-free access into the project. In order to do that, we had to swing a part of the atrium out to create the entry there. So that's another piece that we're including in the project. And finally, the back bay entry. There's an existing dark glass atrium space here now. Again, through the CAC and community process, it was felt that the importance of this needed to be brought to the same level so that it was also a front door to the project. So we now show this glass atria space with a 2-story element. The second floor is new, and that was also a part of the program that was added through the community process. And finally, just to reiterate the accessibility of the site, we're reconfiguring the Stewart and Dartmouth intersection to make pedestrian crossings safer. And we're adding new elevators, which did not exist, especially at the back bay end, to provide the accessibility within the site, as well as making all of the routes into the project barrier-free. And finally, down the southwest corridor, we're replacing a majority of the brick with ADA-compliant concrete paving systems. And this is that final view. So as you can see, our presentation today is brief. We really have continued to solidify and finalize these design elements, and we're here today to ask that these be added to the PDA. Okay, Steve? I don't know if you need this, but
Thank you.
Good evening. And Chairman and members of the board, thank you for hearing us tonight. My name is Stephen Bozak. I'm with Simon Property Group. I'm directly responsible for the construction and development of Copley Tower. As you've heard, since our approval in 2013, we've been working quite diligently through basically 15 different government agencies to turn those concepts into working construction drawings. As part of that process, of those approvals in 2013, we had a number of public benefits which are kind of up on the board there, which we committed to. As we had mentioned in working with the city, we had originally we're putting on-site 71 affordable units. We have since agreed to increase that by an additional 5 affordable units, as well as the affordable units I would mention is just part of the public benefits of this project is going to be providing. Kind of going down the list fairly quickly. Additionally, we are going to have $1 million in housing linkage funds. We spoke a little bit about some of the economic benefits, the jobs that are going to be created, as well as the property taxes and sales taxes that are going to be created by this. We are also going to be giving $250,000 to the Southwest Corridor Park Conservancy, as well as $250,000 to the Friends of Copley Square. Some of the additional elements that were mentioned as far as public realm improvements, as Rob, during the process and going through the years, we certainly met with the neighborhoods and heard about the improvements that were needed to public safety as well as the accessibility of the site. So as part of that, which Rob had mentioned, we're redoing the Stewart Street, Dartmouth corner to improve the pedestrian safety. We're improving and making more accessible the Southwest Corridor. We're also, as part of the Southwest Corridor, providing, we've set up an art subcommittee with the city and some of the neighborhood kind of residents, and we're providing $1 million worth of public art in the Southwest Corridor. We've also committed to providing $1 million worth of contributions to the improvements of Back Bay Station, as well as the Back Bay Station crosswalk. And in total, as I mentioned, excluding the affordable housing, we're providing probably a little over $20 million in public benefits, through this project. So I think we're excited about the project. As you saw, we're extremely proud of the design. We think Elkis has done a fabulous design. We're excited to, after this long process, finally get to a point of fruition with construction, and looking forward to what I think is going to be a fabulous project for the city of Boston in the South End and the Back Bay. So, thank you, and would be happy to take any questions that the team might be able to answer for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. With all your obstacles that you have building that, what kind of foundation you have? You need caissons? How are you going to support this building?
So we've got basically a year worth of construction just down in the turnpike to get ready to put in our foundations. Our foundations are load-bearing elements that essentially go up. We have 3 points that we can hit on the turnpike. We have the median and north and south sides of the median. We basically have load-bearing elements that go 120 feet down, and then they are embedded in like 30-foot rock socket into the earth. So
Caissons or pilings?
With steel, and then we come up, and then we basically have essentially a small Eiffel Tower that goes up through Neiman's, and then the tower starts above.
Angled?
Yes, and they're cantilevered. Yes.
Great, thanks.
Any other further questions?
I'll wait until after we hear from.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that concludes your presentation?
That concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone that, please step up. If you'd like to speak in favor, please step up to the microphone and state your name, and don't forget the 2-minute rule.
Hi, my name is Victoria Riley. I am a Bay Village resident, so I live directly next door to where this project would be built. I just want to say that I am fully in support of this project. As a resident of the area and of the city of Boston, housing is desperately needed. I think that this project will bring a lot of great housing to the area, and so I fully support it. I love the other benefits, besides residential, the retail space, the restaurants, the redevelopment of the Southwest Corridor, and the landscaping, and I'm fully in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Director Golding. My name is Minor Perez. I am representing the Carpenters Union. It's with pleasure to stand before you to support this project. Copley has always done the right thing by the working men, and we're here to support them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Gene Salomon. I'm the Director of Operations for Neiman Marcus in the Back Bay. We fully support the project wholeheartedly. We think for the main reason being, from an employee standpoint, it increase our employee activity and job security by at least 10%. Thank you.
Great, thank you for coming.
Members of the board, my name is David McMahon. I'm a 26-year resident of the South End. I've had my own architectural firm for 18 years in the same area, and I fully support this project. I think it's a great boon to the industry, as well as construction industry, and also just the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Paul Hemis. My name is Gary Walker, Electricians Local 103. I'd like to speak in strong support of this project. It's a long time coming, and we'd like to thank the developer for sticking with it and making this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Neil Conley, Bizage for the Iron Workers Local 7. We also support this project. I just want to say the Simon properties are not only good in Boston, they're good throughout Massachusetts, and wherever they do, they look at good paying jobs. And like I say, I worked on that job back in the 80s. And it was a hard job then. Now what they're doing now, it really puts a really good color to that building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Anthony Samuels. I own Dunright Building Services. I have been a tenant of Simon Properties. I also clean the mall and retail space for them over the last 3 or 4 years. They're a great landlord and a great company to do business with, and I look forward to hiring even more employees as I do more business with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Brian Haley. I'm the Regional Vice President of Laz Parking, and we're a tenant in the Simon office building, as well as have provided parking services for them for the past 7 years. We have housed our offices within the Back Bay for the last 30 years plus, and we are strong supporters of this project and for the work and that it'll provide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name's Noel Therese, and I'm born and raised in the South End of Boston. But what I also do is I oversee South End baseball. We have over 1,000 young children that are involved with our program. Our program is the only free program in the state because Simon Properties has been a long-time supporter. A lot of their staff are outside with the kids, and they're just there. They bring kids out to the complexes, and besides bringing the usual pizza and things like that to get them engaged, says, here's what we do. So a lot of their staff are out there all the time. So we are a huge supporter. Because of them, we're able to provide kids other opportunities in different types of ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim Pham. My business Kim Fashion Design in Copley Mall. I just say my business in here 15 years. The mall, Copley Mall, they help me every way. Please help us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Meg Meinzer-Cohen, president of the Back Bay Association. And I'm here in support of this project and in support of this PDA amendment. I have had the opportunity to participate in pretty much most, if not all, of those public meetings, and I've been here a number of times expressing my support for and the support of the Back Bay Association for this project. It's been a long process, and when it comes to housing and affordable housing, we've had a lot of good discussions about housing in the Back Bay and the challenges associated with it. And I am glad to see that progress has been made, and I pledge the support of the Back Bay Association to continue to look for opportunities to add affordable housing and other housing in our neighborhood that can be very, very challenging. I would say hats off to Simon Property for continuing to work with us on this, and to Director Golden for all his patience as we've gone through so many different community processes. Chris Tracy is new at the BRA, and he did an outstanding job in really listening to the different concerns of the community, and he just kept at it, kept it in an unflappable manner, and he really reflected very well on the BRA, so I had to compliment him. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this proposal? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Please step up.
Members of the board, the name is Mel King. I live at 4 Yarmouth Street, and in many ways an abutter to the project. And I think it's important to keep this in a perspective that deals with how we got here. In my office at 10 City, every day I look at this photo taken many years ago which says, "Stop I-95, people before highways." What's that got to do with here? We did stop I-95 from coming through the heart of the city. And then, because of the gubernatorial election, we got both the candidates, White and Sargent, to agree to stop and put the orange line over on that site, and that's why the orange line is there today. And of course, there was all that other space that had been taken from the highway, which was abutting Tent City. And you know how we were able to challenge the city to change the designation and what would happen on that site. When we found out that the city mayor and those could not just anoint people to make the decisions, but it had to be an elected urban renewal committee. And as a result, we were able to get people elected who worked to make sure that there would be a reduction in the amount of dislocation of people and that they would build there before they moved people out. And when they were not doing that, we took over that lot. Yeah, 23 of us got arrested for making sure that the city would do the right thing. And 10 cities there. It's 25% affordable based on public housing, 50% moderate, and 25% market. And I ask you to find another development anywhere that can compete with the way in which people work there, the number of different racial, ethnic groups that are there, and how it has become a model. As a matter of fact, got a prize over in Turkey at one of the international design and whatnot conferences. So out of that, and I look at that every day, and I see what is going on, I just want to get back to this little piece. We had these early meetings about the development of Copley Place, and one of the things that we worked out, and you heard it said here, was that 25% of the housing would be affordable. 25%. And so we kept thinking that as things move forward, that's what we could expect to be built on and around that site. Came back a couple of years ago, and it was awful. The mayor didn't want to have those units on the site. Right? He didn't want any of the folks whose incomes were low on the site. Please, what kind of people in city are we? There's all this talk about one Boston. One Boston when we do not want to have a city, a place where people of all kinds can have that access. Please. And so when we were here before, we had this situation where we had to take a picket line over to Menino's office in order to get him to say that that housing should be on site. On site.
Why couldn't I?
And now here we are, thinking that for the 99 years that the idea of 25% would hold up. And then we find that there's no real interest in that, and that we got a proposal where they said 15%. When you did the real numbers, it was less than that. And yes, we did make the presentation and the objection to it, and they did go back, and we thought that we were going to get the 25%. They came back with 5 more units. Give me a break, all right? What are we talking about? A place where it's more housing is built for people who got resources and who can make choices than for people with the limited resources and cannot make those kind of choices. And so we think we're making a big deal with that when we know the problem that we have, not just in Boston, but across this country, where people with limited resources get pushed around by folks with more. Look at what's happening down in Chinatown, all right? All those folks who lived there those years. I went to school down there when the Quincy School was there. And what do we have? The buildings moving those people out as if they don't count, okay? And so the opposition to this is on the basis of the fact that Simon's a company with a lot of resources. So much so they're trying to buy up shopping centers in other parts of the country. Yeah, I do read the Wall Street Journal. I have a pretty good sense of some of the corporations and what they are doing in this country. So you read that and you say, well, how is it that they can't put 45 more units on the site so that they would at least honor the struggle and what people went through in order to try and make this area one where was people before highways. Now it's got to find a way to get people before the rich and the greed. And that's why I believe it's important that this board say, wait a minute, you do have the resources. Do what the community has worked hard for, that's cleared and paved the way for, and provide the number of units that are there. I said to them, through the mayor's folks, listen, we got veterans who are in the streets, okay? I'm okay if you put those other 45 units up for veterans so that we honor their struggles and their commitment to this country. Can't do that. That's a protected class. Give me a break. The protected class are the wealthy. Can you imagine somebody telling you that when they're protecting the wealthy? And here are folks who have put their lives on the line. Supposedly, they're told to look out and protect the interests of the people here. But when it comes time to their interests, where are we? Please, you can change that. Send them back. Tell them to put the 45 more units in. It is not about the fact that they don't have the money and the resources. They do have it. And it'll still be all the wonderful projects that people are talking about, but it'll be done based on what I call the technology of the heart. The technology of the heart. We have the technology of the earth, where we've taken the art and made it into material and weapons that do people in. The Bible told us, beat those swords in the plowshare, spears in the pruning hooks, because they take life. With the technology of the heart, what do? We have love as the basis for the art that we do and the ways in which we relate to people. One of the things that I learned from Father John Harmon was to really listen means a willingness to change. To really listen means a willingness to change. And so we're asking you to listen, because in listening, you affirm the humanity and the dignity of the people that are before you. And if we can do that, then we will change, because we affirm the importance of the cross-section of people that ought to be able to have access. One other little piece, we haven't heard anything about the issues of the abutters and whether or not their issues and concerns have been considered. People at Tent City, what's its impact going to be on them? We haven't heard about the impact on the people. I live on Yarmouth Street, and in the past several years, people who were seasoned citizens, people with limited incomes, have been pushed right off because the owners, with the increase in taxes, have not been able to allow them to stay at the affordable rents. So we have a lot of those people who have moved out as a result of what's happened with the changes. And so all we're saying is you have an opportunity to at least get people who are in that circumstance a chance at remaining in this neighborhood. So I just close with that. I hear the term inclusionary zoning. It's called exclusionary, and that's what you're doing. You're not being inclusionary, you're being exclusionary. I'm asking you to vote and send this project back and let them come in with a housing program that's really affordable and representative of what the needs are for the people that are most needy in this country and city. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
Good evening. Thank you. I'll be very short. I live in Tent City, so I'm one of the most immediate abutters to the project. As you probably saw from the slides, we run along the southwest corridor, so our residences have the potential to be impacted by this project. So the first issue I wanted to raise was basically just to reiterate what Mr. King said. We really feel like 25% affordable housing should be recognized, and for a number of reasons. First of all, it's done at Tent City and Harcourt, the most immediate abutters. Secondly, the original lease, as you've heard a number of times, has it in there. And then finally, because the community has asked for it. And the second issue I want to raise is we've asked for a number of other things that haven't come to fruition yet that we feel are really important. For example, we as Tent City don't have any agreement at this point with Simon. What if there's damage to Tent City itself? You know, so those are the kinds of issues that we feel haven't been resolved. And so we'd like to ask you to hold off on the vote until we can have that done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming tonight. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Sandra Manasseh, and I'm a South End resident for about 20 years. And we did have a number of meetings with Simon Properties and EDIC, and some of the concerns were seriously listed, and we never got an opportunity to address them. And they promised us, EDIC promised us a meeting to resolve all those issues, or a significant number of them, and it never came to fruition whatsoever. We waited a whole 30 days, and before we knew it, they were up again in front of the BRA. So my fear and concern is we trusted the BRA to do this. We trusted that we were going to have these meetings. We trusted that we were going to go through all those items, and at least they were going to tell us, yes, we could do this, or no, we couldn't. And that didn't happen. And John Barrows strictly said that that was going to happen, and it did not happen. So I think that it's only fair to ask that you give us 30 more days to go over all those issues. And we do need, and I have to say I regret, because we do need to come out more and go to the mayor, because the mayor said that he was going to be affordable housing advocate, an advocate for one-third, 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 and we need to go to his house and let him know that this needs to be done. So I just ask that you at least give us 30 more days to go over all those items. We clearly listed them to the BRA, to John Barrows. We clearly came out, we played by the game, we played by the rules, and they did not adhere to them whatsoever. So, again, I really just hope you at least give us 30 more days.
Okay, thank you for coming tonight. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Are there any further questions from the board?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Ms. Cohen praised Chris Tracy for the job he did at the meetings. Did you not know of the meetings, and did you not ask the questions at the meetings?
We did ask the question. Our last meeting was with John Barrows and most of this group here. We gave them a clear list of all of the items. And
What, requests or?
I'm sorry?
Could you go
Questions?
to
Questions or demands?
There were questions from safety to the Mass Turnpike issue. There was questions about they had a meeting at the Boston Public Library. There were outstanding issues with that. There were outstanding issues in terms of a butter agreement and meeting with some of the residential places, and that never occurred. And so I guess we were kind of caught off guard because we thought that was going to happen, and it didn't happen. And so I think that, you know, it's our fault for thinking that the BRA and the mayor was going to do the right thing
What
and
do you mean by
taking
the right thing? I don't understand.
But by having that meeting and just going through all those issues, we gave them a clear list.
There's a difference. Questions or demands?
Combination of both.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah, combination of both. So we thought that was going to happen, and it's unfortunate that it didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the board?
Well, I guess I'll just make a comment. I was involved with the early stages of the tent city development, so as much as I appreciate the willingness of the development team to bring me up to speed, there are probably some elements of the original project that I could be useful to you in terms of informing you of. And one of those relates to the 25%, not as a number per se, but as a commitment, really an ethical commitment that the developers made to try to offset certain, even then, patterns of economic segregation that were beginning to occur, spreading out from the South End and certainly through the Back Bay and in other parts of the city. And I have to say that while this particular project, doesn't necessarily epitomize that, I'm very troubled on a citywide basis that in my neighborhood, for example, in Jamaica Plain, there are people of limited means who are saying that they don't want to have market rate units developed in the neighborhood. And then there are people in other developing neighborhoods of the city where people of substantial economic means have been saying they don't want to see people of limited economic means. And we could look back in 5 or 10 years and find ourselves as a city where there's a downtown that is filled with people of substantial economic means, and then neighborhoods that are isolated because they're filled with people of limited economic means. And in both cases, it's neighborhoods that are saying we want to be isolated from each other. I commend Simon on their willingness to show some flexibility here and to add a number of units. I'm disappointed to hear that units could not be added for veterans or other populations. We are looking, for example, at another project at today's meeting where units were set aside for homeless elderly, and no one seemed to raise any objections to that kind of set aside. So I'm not sure that in fact there is a preclusion in terms of establishing priority for those who have the greatest need. But that said, it's also clear that Simon has learned something from this process. I mean, if I hear the presentation correctly, some of the wind mitigation adjustments that have been made at the request of the community as much as at the request of the developer. And there is clearly room for dialogue where developers do, in an ongoing way, benefit from the dialogue that goes on as between community people and the developers. My bigger concern relates to the legacy aspects of this that have been raised by the expiration of the initial lease that included the 25% designation. That means that you folks are not bound by that, and so I have to wonder, what are you bound by in terms of your commitment to provide affordable units, maybe not so much in perpetuity, but at least into the foreseeable future? I understand that these 76 units are set aside, but what happens 20 years from now? will those continue to be affordable units? And it's not clear, based on the documentation I've seen, that the commitment that you are clearly willing to make now will be a commitment that will still exist when Neiman Marcus wants to make their next expansion. From an aesthetic point of view, some of us love the fact that a not very attractive horse is being replaced by a development that will generate revenue and money for art throughout the city. But the commitment, the ethical commitment to keep this a city where all kinds of people feel comfortable coming and going in all kinds of neighborhoods is one that you're showing here, but the question is, how long will that last and how will people know?
I can answer that last question. In accordance with BRA policy, the affordable units will be subject to an affordable housing restriction, which will be a record. Has an initial term of 30 years, as do all similar restrictions in the city, with an extension at the BRA's option for an additional 20. So it's a 50-year extension, which, frankly, under law is sort of the longest you can do without getting into perpetuities issues and that sort of thing. So this project will be subject to the same rule as every other project in the city with respect to required affordable housing.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other further questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for being late. There's one, but it's a question that goes back to the first time that you were before us about several years, a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago maybe. And it was just before Christmas, as I recall. And it had to do with accessibility for the handicap, and it had to do with the bricks around the building, and also with the receptivity of visitors, young people coming in from, I'm assuming, Tent City and the neighborhood itself, and feeling welcomed into your facility. So could you just give me a report on that, just so I know, or so we know? I apologize, I missed it if you've already done that.
And I actually clearly remember the discussion that we had, because we showed a slide that we brought with us again today. And part of our PDA enhancement here is, I'm sorry, I've got the clicker. If you recall this image here. Mm-hmm. So again, what we talked about in 2011, 2013 was the improvement of the entry into the building here, which there are some series of stairs and ramps and things. We committed to making a barrier-free entry into the building and adding an extra elevator here for people with disabilities, families getting up and into the building and through. As we know, it's a major connection to other places in the city. In addition, there is not an elevator in the Southwest Corridor. We committed to adding that elevator and making this a barrier-free entry into the building. And in addition to that, we worked very closely with the Mayor's Commission with Disabilities on the paving, the type of paving, and the extent of the paving, so that it now continues all the way down to Harcourt Street with a ADA-compliant concrete material that we updated this rendering, which shows how that makes its way all the way down through the Southwest Corridor Park to the extent of our site. I think those were the issues then. We've continued to develop them and enhance them, improve them, working with the various groups.
So this has happened, or is about to happen, or these things have all happened?
No. These are in the design.
Okay, in the design.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, have there been improvements to the bricks? I mean, in other words,
yes.
The individuals that were here
right.
at
Bill
that
Kenny,
time.
the general manager, is here. I know after that, there was a lot of time spent repairing and focusing on a lot of those issues.
Good evening. I'm Bill Kenny. I'm the general manager at Copley Place. Yes, we heard loud and clear at that meeting of the concerns. And since that time, and immediately thereafter and in the interim, we have a dramatically kind of intensified hardscape maintenance program. We've met with the commission people with disabilities. We heard them. We walked the site with them. The improvements that we've made then have been maintained. The notion of clear path through and around the site. And notwithstanding certainly the extraordinary and historic winter that we've had, and that did create issues for us, as it did everywhere in the city, we have this spring renewed the effort to maintain that, and will continue until it's done. It's an ongoing issue. It's a challenge, as we said at the time, with the decked nature and the heaving of things. We're on it. We've been on it. It was a message well received.
Great, thank you. And the reason that I bring it up for two reasons. One is I felt that we needed that update. It was also a way of exemplifying the fact that you kept your word, and also that you will continue to keep your word. I feel badly, very badly, that we weren't able to meet the number that the community wanted. But I also know that moving forward, I know that with the BRA, that the list of concerns that the residents of Tent City have, not the demands, I'm not going to call them demands, I'm going to call them concerns, that they will be dealt with, addressed, and that both parties can come away feeling that something happened, something good happened. We're all victims of growth and change, and I wish that it was always good, but sometimes we have to make concessions. So I thank you, and I just want to say that for me it's a personal interest in terms of handicap accessibility, as I've dealt with the illness of my husband. So I'm very aware of what those people, those young men and women that came here on that evening in the winter to let you know that they wanted to have the same kind of respect that all of us who are ambulatory have. So please keep that in mind as you move forward with your project. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One.
Ayes have it. Congratulations.
Hey, Michael. How are you?
You're the best. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Grace. Hey, down here. How are you? Good to see you. Sorry, how are you? I heard about it.
Oh, wait, no, you take that. No, no.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you get better.
I use coffee tomorrow.
Of course. Yes, definitely.
Item number 7. Item number 6 has been removed. Item number 7, request authorization for a 3-month tentative designation extension for parcel 9. Eric O.
Good evening, Chairman Burke, members of the board, Secretary Paul Hemus, and Director Golden. The Parcel 9 development team, Melnia Partners LLC, have been working to solidify various elements of the project program which are related to the project's proposed financing structure, which will create a 145-room hotel, ground floor commercial, restaurant, and community space, 50 units of mixed-income housing, and underground parking for 122 cars. Similarly, BRA and City of Boston staff have been engaged with the development team and area stakeholders in review of aspects of the project's economic development impacts. Following discussions with the Executive Committee of the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan Oversight Committee, elected officials, and various community stakeholders, consideration of an extension to the designation is currently being sought. As part of the tentative designation extension, the following 5 key aspects are deemed critical prior to moving forward with final designation. Number one is clear articulation and demonstration of commitments related to the funding program and finance plan for the project, including but not limited to disclosure of equity partners and their contributions/investments in the project. 2, clear articulation of the tax program for the project as applicable. 3, clear articulation around the project benefits vis-a-vis construction jobs and permanent jobs creation. 4, completion of tenant lease and project delivery date for named tenants as applicable. And 5, completion of necessary project design review and programmatic review. Now, while this work is underway, as undertaken by the Melnia Partners LLC development team, staff deems it appropriate to seek an extension to the tentative designation from the board tonight. Now, I'd like to clarify that the tentative designation in the votes should change from August 15th to September 5th, which accurately reflects a 3-month extension. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8, in the Fenway. Request authorization to approve the institutional master plan for notification for renewal and extension of the Simmons College institutional master plan pursuant to Section 80D-5.2, Section 80D-6, and Section 80D-8 of the zoning code for an additional 2 years and to take all related actions. Caitlin.
All right, thank you. Good evening, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Polhemus. We are here tonight requesting the approval of the Simmons College IMP&F for extension and renewal of the existing institutional master plan. The IMP renewal and extension before you today does not include any changes in building use and does not propose any new projects. The requested renewal and 2-year extension will allow Simmons sufficient time to define their campus goals and work with the BRA, city agencies, appointed task force, and community on a comprehensive planning process resulting in a new 10-year master plan. Tonight, I am joined by Linda Connolly, Chief of Staff from Simmons, if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Second. All those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9. Request authorization to issue a determination waiving further review pursuant to Section 80A-6.2 of the zoning code for the notice of project change for the 1350 Boylston Street for the construction of 212 residential units with 102 parking spaces, to execute an affordable rental housing agreement and restrictions, and to take all related actions. Phil.
Thank you, Chairman Burke, Director Golden, Secretary Polimas, members of the board. I'd like to ask for your vote tonight on a notice of project change submitted by Skanska Development for the project at 1350 Boylston Street in Fenway, as you can see on the map. Since the 2013 project, the proposed project has decreased from a total of 215 units to a total of 202, and is proposing 24 on-site affordable units. In addition to these, Skanska has agreed to a $100,000 contribution towards Ramler Park, another $100,000 towards the 1340 Boylston Street wall, and $970,000 contribution towards Boylston Street reconstruction. I'd like to take this time to submit 2 letters of support from Fenway Civic and Fenway CDC, and would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Item number 10. In South Boston, request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review of Article 80, Section 80B-5.3D, large project review of the zoning code for the construction of 49 residential units, of which 6 will be affordable, ground floor commercial space with 70 parking spaces located at 14 West Broadway, and to enter into an affordable housing agreement and to take all related actions. Gary.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Director Golden, Secretary Polimas, and members of the board. The project, as we just mentioned, is located at 14 West Broadway, the current spot of the Cornerstone bar right across from Broadway Station. The proponent is proposing to construct approximately 90 square foot of mixed-use building, 49 units with 70 below-grade parking spaces, 6 of which, as we mentioned, will be affordable, as well as a $74,000 contribution to the city's housing fund. On December 17th, 2014, the proponents filed a PNF. There were a IEG meeting on the 19th of February and a community meeting on the 3rd, both at the Artists for Humanity building, and the project was well received by the community. And one thing of note is that not listed in the public benefits section is the ongoing discussion between the developers and the IAG for a proposed wayfinding system for the South Boston neighborhood, and that will be codified in the cooperation agreement once we further understand the system that they're asking for. And with us today is Kevin Diebler from Rode Architects to describe the architecture.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the board. I'm Kevin Diebler with Rode Architects. Our firm has been in collaboration with RCA, and we're here tonight to represent the design process, which has yielded an exciting addition to the West Broadway in South Boston. Our project site is in a vibrant section of the city, which enjoys great access to transit and existing urban amenities. Broadway, Athens. Next slide. This is a proposal for a 10-story residential building with 49 units and a large retail footprint. While its height transitions between neighboring properties, we felt the necessity to create a strong singular image on Broadway. The 10-story facade meets the ground and connects to the streetscape with an outdoor dining area and glass storefront, allowing for an activated presence off of the sidewalk. The new street trees will further enhance the streetscape, and our residential entry sets in off of the sidewalk. On Athens Street, we are likewise presenting a strong form to connect to large industrial buildings across 2nd Street. At the base, we've added a secondary pedestrian entrance and a porte-cochere for valet loading and a car drop-off zone. Access to the below-grade parking will be by car elevators, and this is a sort of secondary rear entry to the building. This is a site plan which shows the sort of interior lobby, which connects from the sort of deepened sidewalk, the outdoor dining area, with the skylights sort of pulling you into the building, and then a sort of rear porte-cochere area here, which acts as a secondary entrance into the building. As mentioned, the facade will transition between neighbors. One of the things that we're happy to say is we've been able to sort of work with the building that is just being built next door, the 6-story building there, matching our light wells on the inside, maintaining that feature of that building. All units will enjoy outdoor space with decks, terraces, and balconies. This is the Athens Street facade. The upper floors will be double-height duplex units which cap off the top of the building on both sides. We're excited to be working on such an important piece of the neighborhood, and I thank you for your time this evening. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Hearing none,
Well, I'll ask, sorry, move. Is a general contractor been selected yet?
No, at this point.
George looks like he's in pain.
My name is George Moranci. I'm the project attorney, Mr. Monahan. There's been no general, my client, Ryan Sillery, City Point Development, typically acts as his own general contractor. He has been having conversations with many of the local unions. In fact, he couldn't be here tonight, but he just texted me there is an upcoming meeting with the Building Trades Council. So it is his goal to use as many union craftsmen and craftswomen as possible. The plan right now is he will probably be his own GC, and then we'll have various union subs.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Item number 11, request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with the Article 80E Small Project Review for the construction of 19 residential units, of which 2 will be affordable, with 33 parking spaces located at 815 East 5th Street and 812 East 6th Street, and to enter into an affordable rental housing agreement and restrictions, and to take all related actions. Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Polimis. First, like to respectfully say that Senator Forey supports the project wholeheartedly. I'd also like to orient the board members to Google Maps here. That's okay, we got technical difficulties, we'll get through them. The site is located at 815 East 5th Street / 812 East 6th Street in the City Point section of South Boston. It stretches from East 5th Street to East 6th Street. The site is a through site. And the streets are between O Street and P Street. The proposed project calls for 2 new residential buildings, one consisting of 10 units, the other consisting of 9 units, totaling 19 units with underground parking for 33 parking spaces. It's a rental project. The unit mix consists of 1 one-bedroom, 12 two-bedroom units, and 6 three-bedroom units. 2 of the units have been designated as affordable. The developer will also make an affordable housing contribution of $94,000, and we're asking the board to authorize the BRA to issue a certification of approval and execute an affordable housing agreement. Ted Talukian from Talukian, the project architect, will give you a brief overview, and there are members from the development team who are present to answer questions specific to the project for the board members.
Thank you.
Good evening, Director Golden, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. My name is Ted Talukian. I'm the architect for the project. We'd like to give you a brief overview of some technical difficulties. Okay. There we go. As Lance Campbell described, the project is located in the City Point neighborhood of South Boston between O and P Street and 5th and 6th Street, as located here. It is a through lot building, which is built right to the perimeter of the lot lines on all sides. It is an existing warehouse building that has a direct entrance off of 6th Street, and as I mentioned, has a pedestrian access off of 5th Street. Its current building is, as it's described, a warehouse building which is discontinuous with the neighborhood context, which is basically in between its use, but also its scale and its materials. The context of the neighborhood is a mix of 3- and 4-story buildings that are residential, multifamily, between clapboard and masonry, as well as different tones of colors of paint. We've been working with the developer most recently, and we've worked through the course of the last year to develop changes from initial proposals that you see here, from the existing conditions to a previous proposal to a new proposal, which has been key changes have been a reduction in the unit count from 26 to 19 units, a reduction in the FAR from 2 to 1.81 from a previous proposal, as well as increasing the setbacks, providing more green space, no projected decks, as well as 2 buildings with unit diversities between 3 and 2 and 1-bedroom units. The access is along 6th Street as we located here. It is within the footprint of the existing building, where there'll be 33 parking spaces. There'll be separate elevator accessible entries for both buildings located above, as shown dashed here. There'll be separate trash rooms on either side, as well as an amenity space at the rear of the building for the units. This is the site plan as well as the first floor plan. This is 5th Street to the left and 6th Street to the right. The buildings are located apart from each other, as noted, where there is a central private courtyard as well as green space around the perimeter of the buildings. The buildings are offset from each other in order to provide a diversity of views to the street from the central courtyard as well as to each other. There is a pedestrian access occurring from 5th Street that will allow continuous access to the units at the ground floor as well as central entrances to the cores. The materials we'll be using is within the context of the neighborhood between clapboard, masonry. We have larger operable windows as well as a courtyard above the upper area which will have trees and landscape. As you see some of the perimeter elevations. This is the building section showing you the entrance off of 6th Street, which is within the footprint of the existing building, as well as the two buildings, which are 3 stories above the ground plane. And here are some perspectives of the project from 5th Street, where we have kept we're in keeping with the mansard roof forms and shapes with dormers as well as bay windows, and we looked to make connections between the offset building locations through the bays and dormers themselves. This is a view from 6th Street, where we have set back the building at the ground floor, create a townhouse effect on the lower side, as well as garage access essentially in the same location. And again, some other views from the interior that shows an open space which is continuous with buildings that are set back from the center core to create more openness in the neighborhood. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Curious as to why you reduced the unit count?
That was in direct conversation with the community and in response to some of the density.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Item number 12, in Brighton. Request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review of Article 80, Section 80B-5.3D, Large Project Review of the Zoning Code, for the construction of the Jewish Community Housing for the Elderly project, consisting of 61 affordable senior apartments, of which 7 will be formerly homeless seniors and 5 will be for seniors with lifelong disabilities, located at 132 Chestnut Hill Ave, and to enter into an affordable housing agreement and to take all related actions. Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Polimis. I'd first like to orient you to the project site, which is located at 132 Chestnut Hill Avenue in the corner of Atwood Road, which is a private way in Brighton. The site is adjacent to, I'm gonna try this. No, that's all right. The site is adjacent to the fire station number 29, company number 29 firehouse, in the J.J. Carroll apartments in the existing JCHE campus. North of the site is Brighton Center, and south of the site is Cleveland Circle. The proposed project calls for new construction for 61 apartment homes, including 3,500 square feet of retail and commercial space, while adding 21 new parking spaces to the overall campus. The proposed project will provide significant affordable housing, and I'm just going to bullet these off. There's 7 units set aside for formerly homeless with income limits of 30% of AMI subsidized with vouchers, 5 units set aside for adults aging with disabilities with income limits of 30% of AMI subsidized with vouchers, 4 additional units with income limits of 30% of AMI subsidized with vouchers, 4 units with income limits of 50% of area median income subsidized with vouchers, and 41 units with income limits of 60% of AMI tax credit units. Jessica Boatwright from Jewish Community Housing for Elderly would like to address the board After that, you'll hear from the project's architect, David Eisen from Abacus Architects, who will give you a brief overview of the project.
Okay, thank you, Lance.
Thank you for awarding JCHE tentative designation to develop this site. We're very excited about this project. It is a really important opportunity for JCHE to create a model for how to develop new senior supportive housing in the city of Boston. We're very excited to build upon our existing service-enriched campus and also to create a real face along Chestnut Hill Avenue for the work that we do and a more formal opportunity to engage with our neighbors. We hope that this project's also a great benefit to the city in terms of serving our community seniors and providing more affordable housing options for them. We're really glad to be here tonight to report on the progress we've made through the Article 80 process. It's been a real pleasure to work with Lance Campbell and the BRA staff, and also to formally engage with our Impact Advisory Group and the community. So with that in mind, we're going to skip forward in this slideshow right to the design and share with you some of the design enhancements that we've made over the last few months.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's been great working with the BRA staff and with the community, and I think it's led to a lot of real improvements in the building. Some of the changes we've made since you've seen it last are we've opened up the ground floor, and both JCHE and the community are really excited by the opportunity to have a cafe in front, a lot of glass down below, masonry in the 4-story frontispiece and along the bottom to relate to the buildings on either side, and a series of punched openings and vertical bays that pick up on the rhythm of the surrounding neighborhood within a sort of contemporary vocabulary. Does this move me forward? Yeah. And on the other side, here's Chestnut Hill Avenue. Here's the rest of the JCHE campus with a bridge that connects to 20,000 square feet of community and service facilities in the existing buildings. There's a sheltered drop-off. And what we've tried to do is balance the need for vehicular access, for pedestrian circulation, green space, and emergency vehicle access. And we have a fairly tight site, so we have our turning radii for the fire trucks. We have our bridge coming across. We have trees in the front and the side, green space wherever we can get it, and really orchestrated pedestrian movement all the way through the site to the building and around to the surrounding buildings. Ground floor is all public space with a lobby, retail along Chestnut Hill Avenue, and community space. Above, we have the bridge back to the existing building, a fairly, we have more community space on the second floor, and then a efficient building organization, but we've really offering 600 square foot apartments, which are, provide great living. We have 25% accessible apartments meeting MAB and ADA requirements, and there's a real commitment to really pushing the limit on universal design, a commitment beyond meeting regulatory requirements. So we're really excited about moving forward.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
I was just curious, on the side of the building next to the firehouse, what do you do to alleviate some of the noise of them leaving?
There isn't much we can do. I mean, we're planting trees, but they're not going to cut out much of the noise. I mean, I think we're going to have high efficiency glazing for thermal separation, and that does a lot for sound separation. And we're going to have operable windows, but we're also going to have air conditioning and obviously heat. So people can close their windows, they can open their windows, but it's urban living. We can ask the fire department to relocate, but I don't anticipate that they're going to give in to that.
No, I was just curious because it is, with the clientele you're going to have, it can certainly be very, very annoying.
Yeah.
When there were airplanes going over East Boston, they put windows in that alleviated that substantially. So I was just curious whether or not you took that under consideration because, not to belabor this, but I live close by, a firehouse. I'm not criticizing them whatsoever, but the fact of the matter is that it can be very disturbing.
Well, we could consider triple glazing on that side. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of insulation in the walls, and we're gonna have high efficiency windows, but we could consider triple glazing that would lower energy costs and you know, cut out some of the sound. I mean, it's definitely something I think we can look into.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board?
Well, just a comment. I mean, this is clearly mission-driven, and not every housing development in the city is going to be as sensitive to the needs of as diverse a population as you're addressing here. But I just hope that the media, who spend so much time on downtown developments, take a look at this as an example of the kind of progressive and innovative housing that is possible in the city at this moment.
Really appreciate hearing that.
Any further questions? Motions in order?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Item number 13 at the Charlestown Navy Yard. Request authorization to adopt an amended and restated resolution regarding the tentative designation of Frontier Enterprises, Inc. as redeveloper of Rope Walk Complex, including Building 58 and 60 in the historic monument area, and to enter into a license agreement and an amendment license agreement with said redeveloper. Edwin.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Director Golden, Secretary Polemus, and members of the board. Thank you for having me tonight. As you recall, Frontier Enterprises, Inc. proposes to redevelop the approximately 160,000 square foot rope walk into approximately 90 residential units, with at least 20 to up to 30% of the units being reserved for affordable, depending on the outcome of the state and local financing related to the project's affordability. The proponent will be creating the historic flotation walk area along the southern edge of the building exterior with lighting and streetscape. The rope walk building will offer approximately 8,000 square feet of museum space devoted to the building's past near the corner of 5th and Chelsea Streets. In addition, there will be interpretive images of the building's history along the building's hallways, invisible to tenants and those walking by. As previously approved, the BRA readopted the redevelopment as defined herein tentative designation entitled Resolution of the Boston Redevelopment Authority dated June 19th, 2014, tentative designation for Frontier Enterprises, Inc. as redeveloper of the Rope Walk Complex, including Building 5860 and in the historical monument area of the Charlestown Navy Yard and Charlestown Urban Renewal Area Project number Mass R55 until May 31st, 2015, as well as authorize the director to issue a scoping determination waiving further review on June 19, 2014. The scope was signed on February 18, 2015, and became official 19 days later on March 9, 2015. However, due to the complexity of the proposed project caused by environmental, structural, and historical preservation factors, additional time is needed to complete these pre-development activities and secure the necessary financing. It is therefore recommended that the BRA extend the tentative designation to Frontier Enterprise, Inc. for the Rope Walk Complex until August 31st, 2015. This tentative designation shall automatically expire with prejudice and without further action by the BRA board if Frontier Enterprises, Inc. has not met the conditions and tentative designation and has completed its Article 80 review process of its proposed redevelopment of the Rope Walk Complex. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board at this time? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Edward. Item number 14. Request authorization to approve a district improvement finance district in the Charlestown Navy Yard and authorize the Boston Redevelopment Authority to file an application with the City of Boston for the creation of such district with the state under the Economic Development Incentive Program, as well as request authorization to petition the Boston City Council for approval of such district improvement financing district. William.
Good evening, Chairman Burke, board members, Secretary Polhamus, and Director Golden. This proposal would establish a DIF district in the historic monument area in the Charlestown Navy Yard. The purpose of this would be to begin the first stage of developing a program that would result in bond issues that would allow us to remediate these properties that have been an issue since 1974. The first stage in doing that is for your vote to establish the DIF district, which then would go to the Boston City Council and then would allow us to begin working on an actual development plan with specific numbers, which ultimately would then return to you folks for your approval. The benefit here is that the BRA has had these lands, the remaining space that's down in the Navy Yard, for years and years, trying to remediate these environmental issues. This creates an opportunity to do that. The bond would be paid for by new incremental tax revenues that would be created by the redeveloped spaces in the Navy Yard. So beyond the benefit to the BRA of cleaning up the land, it would start to generate rent to the BRA, and it would additionally create, beyond the increment of tax value, the new tax value that would be used to pay the bond, new taxes and long-term, much greater taxes to the city of Boston itself.
Great. Well, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
William. Item number 15. Request authorization to use a certificate of completion for units number 101 and 104 in connection with the rehabilitation agreement for parcel B-4 at Union Wharf.
Good evening, Chairman Burke, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Polhamus. Staff has recommended that we table this request until a later board proceeding.
Okay, that's fine. So there's a motion on the table to table this to a later date.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Edward.
Have a good evening.
You too, thank you. Item number 16 was removed. Item number 17, request authorization for a tentative designation extension for parcel P3. Erico.
Good evening, Chairman Burke, members of the board, Secretary Polhamus, and Director Golden. The tentative designation of P3 Partners LLC as redeveloper of a portion of parcel P3 and a parcel of parcel P3H was revised through authorization of the BRA board at its December 18th, 2014 meeting to reflect the portion of land on which the proposed Mass DOT project would have been constructed. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Transportation had proposed to construct an approximately 24-story mixed-use building and related infrastructure on a portion of parcel P3. As a result of the revised programmatic activity by the Commonwealth Department of Transportation, it is believed that the entity's proposed development will not occur at a pace which is conducive to economic development priorities for the parcel P3 site. Hence, a recommendation is being put forth to not extend Mass DOT's tentative designation as redeveloper of a portion of parcel P3 and to allow for the tentative designation of P3 Partners LLC to be revised to its original designation area and to extend said tentative designation for 3 months to August 15th, 2015.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Is 3 months enough time?
We believe that 3 months will allow us to set forth significant milestones with the P3 Partners team so that we can engage with both the BRA planning team and the community to move the project forward. Hopefully the team will be able to produce the information that the BRA staff needs, and at the conclusion of those 3 months, we hope to come back to the BRA board and report back significant milestones that will allow us to either extend the designation further, to continue communication with the community, and or decide what steps to take for the project.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? A motion's in order?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Erico.
Thank you.
Item number 18, Board of Appeal. Jeff?
Good
Any
evening,
changes?
Mr. Chairman. Two changes, actually, Mr. Chairman. Item number 9, 19 to 21 Milk Street has been withdrawn. And the last item, number 64, 365 Chelsea and 370 Bremen Street in East Boston. We added that with a recommended of denial without prejudice.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Item number 19, request authorization to petition the zoning commission to attend the proposed citywide text amendment with respect to art galleries and specific entertainment, retail, service, trade, and forbidden uses in commercial zoning districts. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, Director Golden. The proposed amendment before you tonight is really the culmination of 4 months' work between the authority, inspectional services, and the mayor's office to help streamline some of the zoning code issues and some of the process at the Board of Appeal. With the encouragement of the mayor through his Chamber of Commerce speech that stated we are in the midst of a comprehensive zoning review, the proposed amendment seeks to make specific uses allowed across the city in every commercial zoning district. The uniform regulations for these uses will ensure that individuals or companies wishing to open one of these kinds of businesses, for instance, fitness centers, TV repair shops, shoe repair, upholsterers, very low impact uses, know that if it is an allowed use in one commercial zoning district in one part of the city, it is now allowed citywide in commercial zoning districts. The second part of this amendment would remove language that states right now that any use not listed in the downtown districts or the neighborhood districts is an automatically forbidden use. Removal of this language would streamline permit applications, relieve the ZBA backlog, and allow for thoughtful dialogue and problem solving when a new or innovative use presents itself. An example of this is yoga studio, where everyone may associate this with a fitness center. However, since it's not specifically allowed in the zoning code, inspectional services has no choice but to cite it as a forbidden use, even though a fitness center may be an allowed use in that same zoning district. So this amendment removes all of that language so that the city really has to make a decision on what is the next best use for that. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? No questions. A motion's in order?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Item number 20, request authorization to issue request for proposals for a first phase of consulting services in connection with the citywide plan. John?
Good evening, Chairman Burke, Director Golden, Secretary Polimas, Vice Chairman Foster, and members of the board. Last week, in conjunction with the Ideas Summit that board member Lance Mark was instrumental in organizing, Mayor Walsh announced the launch of Imagine Boston 2030, the first initiative to develop a citywide plan since 1965. Working in close collaboration with the mayor's office and other city departments, the BRA will be taking a lead role in carrying out this initiative. As you might imagine, undertaking a planning effort of this breadth and scope will require significant consulting resources. Staff will be seeking consultant services in phases. The first phase, which is the subject of this evening's authorization, relates to the bringing on board of 2 primary consultancies whose services will be critical to the project launch. A lead planning consultant who will have primary responsibility for developing, coordinating, and authoring the citywide plan, and a public engagement and marketing consultant. Later RFP phases will involve procuring services to assist with a wide range of subject matter for the citywide plan, such as housing, transportation, urban design, sustainability, open space, economic development, and so on. We envision coming back to the BRA board as early as this summer to authorize additional RFPs for more services. We anticipate the following schedule of milestones for the citywide planning process. Even before the consultants are on board, this summer we will begin the work of analyzing and documenting baseline conditions. By fall of this year, armed with the baseline condition results, we would launch a public visioning process that will include the development of principles and goals that would guide the plan. From there, by spring of 2016, we will have created what we're calling a framework for the citywide plan, a blueprint, as it were, that lays out the broad strokes of the plan. From the framework, we'll segue into the actual development of the draft plan by the end of 2016. We would anticipate plan adoption in just over 2 years from now, by summer of 2017. In terms of timing of the RFP and consultant procurement, we're looking at the following schedule. Release of the RFP on June 1st. Proposals will be due in early July. Consultant interviews will happen in late July. And board authorization to enter into a contract with the consultant at your August board meeting this summer. I'd like to make a special note that the BRA and the Mayor's Office are keen on expanding public engagement strategies for the citywide plan well beyond traditional approaches in order to engage people who traditionally may not have participated in BRA planning processes. Through the RFP, we'll be looking for original and creative ideas to engage diverse voices from across the city. With that as background, I'd like to respectfully request that the board authorize the secretary to advertise and issue a first phase RFP for the citywide plan. This concludes the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
I guess just one.
Yes.
Is there a sense yet of how this planning process will intersect with some of the other planning processes that are going on? For example, the cultural planning process and some of the housing work and the like?
We sort of have an embarrassment of riches in terms of the number and diversity of plans going on in the city. As you know, the Go Boston 2030 plan is underway. Housing a Changing City was recently completed. And the idea of the citywide master plan is to coordinate all of these planning efforts into a single document. That's not to say that the master plan will replace any of these documents in any way, but it will be coordinating closely. And along those lines, we have formed an interdepartmental working group with all the other city departments to coordinate this effort.
Great.
Any further questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Item number 21. Urban Design Department update. Pratap.
Chairman Burke, Secretary Palamas, Director Golden, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity for the first of a series of urban design updates to you. I have been looking forward to this day, and thank you for making it possible. Tonight, I'll give a quick overview of the urban design department itself to help place the presentation to follow in a context. The three main topics I'll focus on today is the role of the department within the BRA, the various functions within the department, and the staff areas of expertise. One of the themes that came out of the Ideas Summit that Tad referred to, that Mr. Landsmark was instrumental in coordinating with the BRA, was the theme of focusing on not just the buildings, but the places that are created by the buildings, that is spaces in between, the open spaces, the streets, the sidewalks, that's the places where people reside. People experience the city through. And so the department focuses on both the micro level and the macro level of placemaking. So in the context of macro level, we work with the planning department as in making sure that we are coordinating the activities of planning with urban design, and at the micro level with development review, in making sure individual projects that you looked at today, the Article 80 projects, are also incorporating design ideas into them. So it sort of fuses the two together. So let me take the example of, and so what I said might seem a little abstract, so let me give you an example of how that works. Let's look at Harrison-Albany corridor, which is really where how placemaking works. It takes a piece of the city and focuses in on it. This was a planning study done about 3 or 4 years ago together with the planning department. The urban design staff worked very closely with them to look at an area bounded by Albany Street and the Turnpike on one end and a section of Harrison Avenue on the other side. So this area went through a fair amount of change in the early part of the 40s and 50s when the large industrial uses came into the area and made them into large non-residential size blocks. So one of the first things we did was to look at how to integrate some basic urban design concepts like streets and blocks that ties the neighborhood back into what was formerly an industrial area. And in the process created the framework for development to follow. So that's a key part of what urban design does with the planning department in its role in coordinating with planning, is to set the framework for basic concepts like streets, blocks, open spaces that didn't exist in this area before, that will scale of developments to come. So this is just a blow-up of this section here, which then when the development projects started coming in, we were able to fine-tune them back and forth. So some of the concepts of a through block connection through here or the new street through here were there in the plan that you saw earlier. And when we overlaid that with the development projects, you start seeing the jigsaw puzzle coming together. So the planning concepts get realized through the Article 80 projects that the urban design staff again works closely with to implement the planning principles into development projects. So this is just a couple of examples of the ink block, which is right here. So we work at the architectural scale, but also in making sure at the street level, where the life of the city is, the public realm is as rich as possible. Another example in the same district of the building here, in this case, what was key was try creating the open space that you see in the middle, which is a through block connection that anybody and everybody can walk through, is as public as in nature as possible. Another example along Albany Street. Albany Street today is hardly recognizable as a pedestrian environment at all with the highway going by. As a result of the design review that we had, the whole base of the building will be much more animated, even though you really have no reason to walk along the street. We still felt that even if you're going by in a car, you should feel that you're part of a city and not part of a former industrial area which is turning its back towards a major thoroughfare. Again, not to focus on any particular project, but this gives you the feel for how this is a building right here, which is approved by the board a year ago. So again, showing how the life of the city at the ground level is as important as looking at the building itself. So what does it translate into? The urban design department really functions like a hinge. So with planning at one side, project review happening on the other, it really is the pin that comes together to make the two, coordinate the two parts of that hinge. And who are the people who do that? It's a fairly extensive list, about 13 professionals. They're not all doing the same thing. And I'll get into that in a minute. They're overlapping into various functions. And what are those functions? So let me just elaborate on the functions and the staffing within the department. I don't want to bore you with a flow chart because that's the last thing you need at this time of day. But what I wanted to point out is this list layer here are what I consider my senior staff in the department of 6 people. And I call them senior because they each represent an area of expertise, from sustainability to landscape to technology and urban design to neighborhood ZBA. So various forms of expertise embedded in those 6 people, plus years of experience of understanding the area as well. And in subsequent meetings, I will propose that I bring them one at a time and be able to have them explain their particular areas of expertise to you. So I'm just giving you an overview today, and I'll have the staff come in and give you greater detail on these. So the core areas of function or design I would say are two layers. One is a design review, and the other is design areas of expertise. And I'll just go through them very quickly. This is one that you are quite familiar with because a number of projects coming through here are going through Article 80 and seeking your approval for Article 80 completion. The other is Zoning Board of Appeal, which Jeff touched upon a few minutes ago, the package that comes before you. Then there's the Civic Design Commission, which really is not under the Urban Design Department, but is staffed by the department. So David Carlson is one of the department senior architects, is also the executive director of the BCDC. So it's coordinated through BRA Urban Design staff. In this layer here is what I call urban design initiatives or plan or areas of expertise that we tap into: planning studies, landscape architecture, green building technology, and 3D modeling technology. The wonderful maps that we have along the corridors, most of them are generated in-house by our staff. We have a three-dimensional digital map of the whole city at our disposal, created in-house by our staff. We also have graphic and modeling capabilities. The staff that I described earlier fall into these, but even though they look like a lot of number of people here, a lot of the same names will keep appearing in the same different categories because we are double teaming them into different areas of expertise. We'll just briefly go through each one again. I will do this very fast, just bear with me. So Article 80 includes large projects and small projects, and includes also projects in the neighborhood and downtown. So it ranges in quite widely in scale. You saw some of those today, but ranges as high as the high rises of downtown, but also in the neighborhood, the Fenway Point that you looked at, I think, last board meeting, along with the building in South Boston that you approved today is the one abutting the Broadway T station next year. So along with the different scales of neighborhood and downtown project, it also covers institutional master plans that we coordinate with the planning staff, but also the design review of individual projects, such as a science building at Northeastern. This is a Northeastern IMP, embedded in which are about 12 different projects, one of which is under construction right now, this one here. A quick snapshot of what that adds up to. In the year 2013 to 2014, that was 76 large projects that were approved by the design staff design review. And this is dealing with design review and not the board approval. And so a total of about 10 million square feet in the 2 years there, and about 76 large and 44 small projects done primarily by 3 staff people. So it's a very, very small staff that is taking care of a lot of the design review that you're seeing happening in the city of Boston. And that's happening because, as I said earlier, they are very experienced, and they also have a deep knowledge. Quickly focusing on neighborhood ZBA, oftentimes we think of dormer additions, porch additions as being primarily what ZBA projects are about, but they also entail small residential scale units, houses that are single or 2 family, such as this one that came in for review looking like that, and after review looked like that, which is taking the scale and making it more in keeping with the scale of neighboring buildings, even though allowing for a more contemporary feel to the newer portion of the 2. This is the existing building that is formerly was embedded into that, and this now shows it as separate and scaled better. Again, a quick snapshot of what that adds up into. In 2014, there were 300 to 400 cases that were reviewed and approved. Again, primarily by 3 plus 1. David Carlson sort of is a person I've almost cloned at this point to functioning in almost every capacity that we have. And so primarily, if you look at the numbers, 3 people or 2 people are taking care of most of the ZBA design review in the Urban Design Department. The Civic Design Commission is an advisory body, but a very important one in terms of giving us a professional third party, so to speak, take on what is coming through the BRA and through the design review. They range again from neighborhood scale projects to downtown scale projects. So they are also, even though we focus oftentimes on the downtown scale, they're also keeping track of the larger scale projects happening in the neighborhoods. Similar to the Harrison Albany study was another one that we did for South Huntington, where we worked closely with the planning department and created the framework for the development that followed, that was approved by the BRA board. This is under construction. This is meant to start construction very soon. That again set the framework for allowing development to happen, which I think, as Tad pointed out, we will be doing at a citywide scale very soon. We'll be setting the framework for the next generation of development to happen in a more systematic and organized manner, and a more predictable manner. This is not, don't intend to go through any of this in any detail, but again, the urban design staff works with the planning staff and other city agencies on a number of different kinds of planning studies, from the Charlestown Navy Yard to Greenway study to Turnpike air rights, and a whole slew of them. There's examples of them there. The landscape department is just a person of one within the department. She again is a very multi-talented, multi-purpose person in that she does urban design Article 80 review, ZBA review, also does project review in terms of Mary Suhu Park, which is in Chinatown. She project managed the design and construction of the project along with other BRA staff. So we have multi-functions done by very small teams of people who are overlapping into different functions. This is an area that has evolved very rapidly in the last 5 to 7 years, and yesterday at the AIA convention, this project here, which is the E-Positive Homes on Highland Street in Roxbury, won an AIA award yesterday. It won many awards already, and this one won yet another one, a very prestigious one yesterday, which I'm very, very proud of, because it is a pilot program which has been wildly successful beyond our own imaginations. And we came before the board at the last meeting to take another parcel from D&D to further that program, and we're looking at expanding that program further. This on the side here is some examples of competition that is currently underway, and the fight for looking at how Boston can be adapted for sea level rise, which is a real issue that Boston is facing. And so we held an international competition which had entries from around the world, and we've come to the final round where the finalists will be selected next month.
Let me just, we have to stop for a break for the tape, for the
Sure.
TV, but we want you to come back afterwards.
Absolutely.
Because we're going to have some, I know we're going to have some questions and comments for you.
Okay.
So let us take a 5-minute recess.
Sure.
And we'll be back.
Thank you.
Update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me for having gone very fast. I was trying to keep it as abridged and brief as possible.
No, you did fine. You're doing fine.
The slide before you is about yet another subset of the urban design department, which has been very instrumental in being able to do visualization at both the city scale and at the smaller planning scale of individual neighborhoods and portions of the city. Has been a very useful tool, which we have also been able to give out to the development community when developers are proposing projects. We give out a portion of the larger model. This is broken up into different tiles, so you can actually give a portion, so they can actually put their project into it and give it back to us or use it for their presentation. So it's worked very well, both in terms of getting back information and also sharing our information. What you saw on the left, I'll just do that one more time again, is a shadow study, which is also something we can do in-house. So if you look at the image on the right, you'll notice the shadows moving. And so when shadow studies are shown at meetings here, it's very important to note that shadow is not a fixed thing. It's constantly moving, and it's important to understand how much and at what time of day. And those kind of studies are very helpful to visualize the three-dimensionally how shadows really work. And that's done in-house again. That model itself is made by our staff, and the shadow study itself was done in-house by our staff. One person, but it's augmented by a second person from MIS who also does graphics. Taj works on a number of different kinds of promotional material that we put out. Right now, she's actually, as we speak, frantically working to get the ICSC brochure ready to go to Las Vegas tomorrow, for printer tomorrow and to the conference day after. So it's a whole range of different kinds of material, from two-dimensional to exhibit design when we have a booth at the seafood show, for example, we've had in the past. Those booths have been done by, displays have been done by our graphic department as well, or I call it department, it's department of one really. Similarly, the model shop, David again repeats himself here because he supervises Richie, who is the only model maker in the department right now. There's the piece de resistance of the 9th floor is the model, which we have now taken it off the 9th floor and brought a portion of it to the 3rd floor so more people can enjoy it. And we're going to find ways to making this more and more public because it is something that more and more people should be able to enjoy. Because one of the real perks of my office where it's located is right across from the model room, and I get to hear a wow at least once a day from somebody passing by or a group of people coming in, and they go, wow. And it's wonderful, wonderful to hear that every day. I want to end on this note, which is the Ideas Summit last week sort of forced me to think about a few things. One was the importance of placemaking. The other was diversity and connectivity and thinking across boundaries. And the last one is really, really important here as we think of the whole city. But more importantly than just thinking of the whole city, as the mayor convened the summit yesterday with 14 other city mayors in the region of thinking about climate change holistically, because you cannot deal with it as a city scale, it is more and more important that we look across our borders. So the diagrams at the bottom were part of an article I wrote 3 years ago with the head of urban design for the city of Cambridge about how might you look at the two cities together and what are kinds of things that diagrammatically start appearing. These are like picture diagrams, so to speak, about nodes of clusters of innovation, activity pulse, as I called it, the variety of kinds of living neighborhood options. I call this the galaxy of stars. This is, Fenway, Howard Square, different things that are where people come to this region for where, as a tourist, as a business wanting to locate itself. And again, when you look at the open space system, when you look at the whole connected the two cities together, you realize the river is not a divide. The river is what connects us together. But we don't think of the river as what brings us together. And we hardly pay attention to how these two edges are really, really important in making the connection across. We focus often on the harbor side. We haven't focused as much on this. So I bring this up as ways of stimulating a next generation of conversation about how do we go beyond the city to looking at the neighboring areas of our bordering cities to think of it holistically. And I end on this note just as a way of reminding ourselves about, we started with looking at a neighborhood in Boston right here, and I'm ending on a note of saying we might want to start looking at that scale, but the next scale beyond the city as well. I just wanted to point out that I have a lineup of stars, so to speak, for future presentations to go into greater depth about certain aspects of the department that I touched upon very briefly today.
Great.
Thank you for the
Well,
opportunity.
thank you very much. It was quite a presentation.
Thank you, Pratap.
And it gives us a better appreciation of the amount of work that goes on and the detail of work that goes on. It was really, thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
I do have one question.
Please.
Where do you get your information when you're looking at, what's the latest information that's available in data when you're looking at the rise in sea levels? Where do you obtain that information from?
FEMA is one.
FEMA?
There are a number of different organizations that look into this as well. Boston Harbor Association is a nonprofit but FEMA is the primary source.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Well, I would just make the comment that I think this is really terrific. I don't think most folks understand the depth of analysis that goes on within the agency, and I think it's helpful as an educational function, not just for us, but for the larger world. And I would hope and expect that as the planning process moves forward, the digital model in particular
right.
Would become a very useful tool to utilize so that people can see things in context more easily. I mean, in today's meeting, we have 2 projects on Chestnut Hill Ave. They came in as independent projects. it's not clear as to how they relate to each other necessarily. There was an earlier meeting where we approved 3 projects on the East Boston waterfront, but it wasn't entirely clear as to how they related to each other. And the digital modeling, I think, will make that a lot clearer to all of us.
Any further questions? No? Well, thank you, and be sure to thank your staff
I absolutely will.
for their hard
Thank you
work.
for the opportunity,
We
and
really
I-
appreciate that.
And I hope to have some of the staff come and present to you directly, so you can actually hear from them directly as
We're
well.
looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pratap.
Item number 22. Request authorization to execute Amendment Number 1 to the A&E service contract for the continued design services for improvements to 2 Boylston Street, China Trade Center, to meet code and regulatory requirements compliance for the occupancy of the Bargman, Hendry, and Archetype, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $250,000. Did I say that right?
You did a very good job.
Did I?
Yes, you
Thank
did. And I won't change mine.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Palamas. An architectural service contract for Bargman Henry Archetype was approved on the board June 20th, 2011 for various architectural and engineering services for the China Trade Center building. These services included investigating the building's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection systems and life safety and code review. Additionally, the work for Bargman Henry included identifying the building's deficiencies, determining the necessary design services to mitigate those deficiencies, along with probable costs for each. Current projects completed or are continuing with Bargman Henry for the BRA now are the new atrium smoke control system, elevated lobby safety repairs, new ADA bathroom improvements, energy efficiency upgrades for lighting, boilers, pumps, and new building management systems. And we were able to get some very nice credits from NSTAR on the energy efficiency upgrades as well. As the building's deficiencies were addressed, a simultaneous effort was underway to secure a new tenant or multiple tenants. And the BRA was previously in discussions with the existing tenant, the Commonwealth's Division of Capital Asset Management, or DCAM, but the tenant did not renew its lease and vacated the building. Therefore, the BRA's leasing strategy of the building shifted to hiring a real estate marketing firm who would then offer tenant space to the wider market. So the contract with Bargman Henry shifted course from providing design for full build-out of each of the DCAM's floors to one of providing design services of building system improvement projects such as a completely new fire alarm and stairwell pressurization system, which is currently underway. Floors 2 and 3 core and shell, which is basically preparing that space for any tenant that's available in the market today, and that project is also underway. And new front entrance security and lobby improvements, and that is partially underway as well. We ordered the furniture and the security system. As a result of further field investigations, code analysis, and market conditions, additional design services are needed for the building. Amendment number 1 for Bargman Henry will be needed to provide these services, which include floors 4, 5, and 6 core and shell, which is typical of what was done on 2 and 3. Stairwell structural repairs. Many of the investigation we did found that there was some dry rot into the floor stringers. The building was built in 1887, so it's been a challenge dealing with the structural problems, but right now I feel we have a good handle on it. Rooftop ventilation, HVAC unit upgrades as well. We're relocating some of the tenants to make better use of the space, as well as new electrical metering for floors 2 through 6. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, it's recommended to enter into Amendment Number 1 with Bargman Henry Archetype at an additional cost not to exceed $250,000, please.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Item number 23, contractual. We need a motion to pay these bills.
Move that we pay the bills.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 24 is the director's update. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the members. A couple of exciting things happened last week. We referenced them throughout this proceeding. As has been mentioned, the Ideas Conference kicked off, the Innovation and Design Summit that our own Dr. Ted Landsmark generated. It was his brainchild a couple months ago, that in direct response to the mayor's call at the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce in December, calling for newer, innovative ways of looking at design in Boston. Ted came to senior staff at the BRA, suggested that we hold a summit, that we invite people locally, nationally, even internationally, and they all came. We had over 300 RSVPs. Most of those people came to the event. It kicked off over at Faneuil Hall last Wednesday night and went all day the following day at the Boston Society of Architects space. It was a wonderful event. And the mayor's calling for innovative design, and as we learned repeatedly throughout the proceeding, it's more than just the way the buildings look, as Ted mentioned earlier, and as Robert Campbell, the Boston Globe's art critic, mentioned when he kicked off the discussion of the Ideas Summit at Faneuil Hall. He said, design and architecture isn't just about buildings. It's about, their effects on the world around them. It's about their effects on open space and public space. This whole notion that's not just the building, might not even be primarily about the building. It may be more about what's going on around them that adds life and vitality and significance to the city. So we talked a lot about design, the aesthetics of buildings, but also their effects on recreation, on open space, on the arts, on our civic culture, on economic health, the economic benefits that flow from good design, even social equity, the importance of design in so many facets of our life in Boston was explored, and it was wonderful for the layman and for the professional practitioner alike. So I was there for almost the entire thing. I know some of the board members came for all or part of it. It was a terrific event. There's been a lot of feedback internally about it. I mean, we're getting emails, we're getting stopped on the streets. Almost everybody who's come in recently to talk about a project, team comes in, somebody was at that Ideas Summit, or somebody had some really direct knowledge of the conversation. And just for your edification, I think sometime early today there was a quick synopsis of what occurred there in Boston Magazine. It's on their website. So I encourage you to look at it. It's a nice piece that summarizes our crowdsourcing of important ideas and design. So I think it accomplished what Ted set out for it to accomplish. We're all the beneficiaries of it, and I thank you for that, Ted, for bringing that together.
And I thank staff for all the support they provided, and they were just terrific.
I want to mention that there were so many staff members who played an important role. Corey Zengabot, our senior planner and architect, Mike Christopher spent an awful lot of time bringing it together, working closely with Ted. Our own Helmsley Alphonse. Helmsley works in my office part-time. He's an architecture student at Wentworth, but Helmsley ran the audio visual devices throughout the proceedings, so it was just terrific. It was a combined effort, and I thank all the staff that I haven't named as well. At that same event at Faneuil Hall, the mayor kicked off his citywide comprehensive plan. We're calling it Imagine Boston 2030, and we have BRA staff, we have an ecumenical staff, an interagency team working on beginning the process of moving forward with the mayor's vision for a citywide master plan. As you all know, there hasn't been a citywide comprehensive plan since 1965. So at the 50-year anniversary, we're going to create a new one. And it's going to take a lot of time and effort and personnel, not just from the BRA and the planning division, but throughout all the city agencies who have a role in crafting a really comprehensive understanding about where we're taking the city from a planning perspective. So the mayor kicked that effort off on Wednesday night. We'll be spending approximately the next 2 to 2.5 years working on the citywide plan. But I did want to say thank you to staff as well, a team from MIS, from graphics, and from planning, both working on the technology and on the substantive content, put together the Imagine Boston 2030 website. That's a
a BRA creature, and it was BRA staff who worked feverishly to get that website up and running by the time of the mayor's announcement, and it serves two initial very important functions. It provides the public information about what we're doing, the citywide planning effort, and it also gives them an immediate opportunity right now to weigh in with suggestions about how this process unfolds. There'll be plenty of opportunity for them to have substantive comment about the plan itself, but right now the website's seeking and receiving input on how do you, member of the general public in Boston, think we should go about involving the public in planning. So I think I was told in the past 7 days, the website's 7 days old, we're getting about 2,000 hits a day, and we've already had several hundred, I think just under 1,000 substantive inputs from the public on that website. So again, it's informing people and giving them a mechanism for their voice to be heard. So I want to thank the MIS, the graphics, and the planning staff for their effort to help move the mayor's planning effort forward. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions of the director at this time? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Item number 25 is personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. We have a few items for your consideration on the BRA agenda. We have one appointment, Philip Granberry, for the research department. He's going to be one of the senior researchers and a demographer, and his start date is June 15th. And we have two travel items. We have Marie Marchurio, part of the planning committee. She's a senior planner 1, and this is a retroactive travel to Houston, Texas, with travel costs of about $900, and that was for May 11th through the 13th. We have Tad Reed in the planning department, senior planner 3, with a travel to Saratoga Springs, New York. This is being paid for by the American Planning Association conference, APA/MA, and this will be for June 25th. And then we also have just one change in status for Christina Cara in the director's office. She will be continuing on an unpaid leave of absence from May 18th through July the 7th.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? So motion to accept the...
So moved.
Second. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to close this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And I will read a statement. The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications. And the first item for EDIC is the approval of minutes of April 16th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 2. Request authorization for an emergency purchase of a Bobcat S570 for snow plowing and removal services in the Boston Marine Industrial Park in an amount not to exceed $40,983. We're not still putting plowing snow over there, are you?
No, this is just to ratify, when we were plowing that little bit of stuff that fell, one of our Bobcats unfortunately was disabled, and we had to quickly and amazingly actually found one that was available to purchase, and this is just to ratify that vote.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Motion's in order?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3, request authorization to advertise a public bid for emergency repair and general construction basic services contract. Larry.
Yes, this is request authorization to advertise for emergency repair general services contracts, which are for a limited basis, which are really time sensitive and are typically around $9,000 to $10,000 or less. but more as an issue of time as opposed to cost. And other contracts normally are publicly bid as we need them and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Item number 4, request authorization to award tentative designation status to and to enter into lease negotiation with Skanska USA Commercial Development, Inc. to facilitate the redevelopment and use of parcel Q-1 located in the Boston Marine Industrial Park. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 2012, EDIC issued a request for proposals to establish a short list of commercial real estate brokerage firms. In 2013, EDIC entered into an exclusive agency agreement with CBRE New England to help us market parcel Q1. In 2014, CBRE released an offering memorandum nationally to announce the availability of Q1. 31 prospective developers in 10 states on both coasts signed a confidentiality agreement to receive the offering memorandum. 4 proposals were received, all from developers in Greater Boston. In January of 2015, all the developers were interviewed by an internal EDIC committee and CBRE. Based on potential revenue and the ability to get financing, CBRE is recommending Skanska USA Commercial Development. Staff agrees that this is a very good decision, and we are endorsing it, and we're requesting that Skanska be awarded tentative designation to finalize lease negotiations and to start the Article 80 process. Today from Skanska to briefly discuss their exciting development proposal is Carolyn Desmond and Mark McGowan. I'd like to introduce them and let them speak for a couple of minutes. If
Great,
you're,
thank you. Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Carolyn Desmond with Skanska Commercial Development. This will be very brief. I'll start by giving you a quick overview. A quick overview of Skanska, and then Mark is going to talk a little bit about our vision for parcel Q1. Skanska is a global real estate development and construction company operating in Europe and North America. Our annual revenue over $20 billion globally per year. On the development side, we have been building off of our own balance sheet for the last 25 years in the Nordics and in Eastern Europe. We have had our development presence in the U.S. since 2009, operating in 4 markets: Houston, Texas, Washington, D.C., and Seattle, Washington, and Boston. In Boston, let's see if this clicks here. Here we go. In Boston, we control about $1.1 billion development pipeline, of which $500 million is currently under construction in the Seaport. We have a very unique structure where we're able to self-finance all of our development projects, and we have our own in-house construction company. So together makes a very unique and efficient and very good quality projects. As the board is aware, there's a lot of development and construction happening in Boston right now, and I think Skanska has a really good pulse on that activity, and Mark is going to talk about our vision for Q1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. So Carolyn mentioned the activity in Boston. We're pretty close to the activity in the Seaport District in Fort Point, and what we saw as an opportunity with parcel Q1 was the ability to create new office space that really complements the creative energy in the Innovation and Design Center and what we're seeing in the industrial park with the momentum of the Seaport District. So we're pretty excited about that. We have a lot of confidence in the market fundamentals right now. We believe what we can create at parcel Q1 is a Class A offering that is at a discount to the downtown construction or downtown development and compete with existing buildings in terms of a of a rent structure. Our vision, we haven't gotten much into architecture design, but we just wanted to share our vision for this gateway parcel to the industrial park, to create a state-of-art space that offers a kind of a modern interpretation of what's been a rich industrial neighborhood with rich industrial history, and to really enhance the public realm that offer a sense of place and activate the district with some different tenants. With that, there's some images of some massing, and you can see where parcel Q1 is in relation to Summer Street. Again, we haven't yet to begin the process with the community and in the BRA to talk about design, but some early thoughts and images that we proposed during our discussion. So with that, we look forward to working with the BRA and EDIC as this project develops, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board?
I guess I have a general question. This is a gateway to the Marine Industrial Park.
Right. So that familiar turn into the industrial park, Q1 is just behind. There's a train track, but yes, that's the orientation if you can picture.
So it'll kind of set the tone for what people may expect to encounter elsewhere in the park. Okay. So there's an overall, as you've heard in today's meeting, comprehensive planning process that is now underway that may have an impact on some of the other parcels there, not all of which may end up as office buildings. Indeed, some of the parcels down there are quite unique waterfront parcels that could become something really interesting and transcend what one would normally find in a neighborhood of office buildings. You haven't yet selected your architect, and that's fine, but I would hope, given Skanska's ability to self-finance and the work I've seen that they've done elsewhere, particularly in Europe, and knowing that Skanska tends to hold on to its assets as opposed to flipping them, that you would put something there that could accommodate a number of other very diverse uses of the Marine Industrial Park. That is to say, there are people who are already raising questions as to how the Marine Industrial Park becomes more user-friendly for families on weekends and kids, how it becomes a real kind of a citywide asset and way of accessing the water. And if it feels a little bit too much like an office park, that may be mitigated. So I would urge you to consider that in your planning.
Thank you. Yeah, we're eager to start the dialogue and the process with the city. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Mark Kell, so you're building it on spec? You don't have...
So we don't have a tenant, and judging on the process and our knowledge of the process and when we can hit the market, we're excited about what that means, and we're a publicly traded company. We can't say that we're going to do something of that nature, but we can indicate our intent and desire to build a building there without a tenant.
I mean, starting in Cambridge, your ability to see what's happening 5 years ahead has been unbelievable. I mean,
Thank you. We're knock on wood that we can continue.
What about with the tenants that are in that building? What's going to happen with them?
So again, our vision is to draft on, I think there's a lot of interesting things happening at the Innovation and Design Center further down the road, to draft on that vibe, as well as we're seeing a lot of activity from tenants that want to be downtown but can't afford, frankly, our rents further down the street at 101 Seaport or 121 Seaport. So we think there's a middle road of tenants that want to be downtown, to want to have an active neighborhood that have expressed interest, and we've actually started to chase them once we heard about this. So
So the tenants that are there now, though?
Oh, no tenants. It's a
No
parking-
tenants in there
parking-
now?
It's a parking lot now, so that's
nothing.
represented.
Oh, just the parking lot in front of the building? I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I'm sorry,
sorry for that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Congratulations. Item number 5 was removed. Item number 6, request authorization to execute a license agreement with Zoom Group LLC for the use of 28 parking spaces within parking lot P located adjacent to Black Falcon Avenue in the Boston Marine Industrial Park. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoom Telephonics currently leases 27 Dry Dock. It's a 285,000 square foot building that they do subleasing to manufacturing companies and research and development companies. They currently license 28 surface parking spaces from EDIC. That license has expired. We are asking to enter into a new 2-year license at a rate for the 28 spaces at a rate that's 33% higher than the EDIC parking garage.
Great. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Item number 7, request authorization for a 60-day extension to the tentative designation of Wharf 8 Pier 7 Partnership LLC as redeveloper of lease and redevelopment of Wharf 8 Pier 7 in the Boston Marine Industrial Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Director Golden, and Secretary Polimis. We are seeking a 60-day extension to this tentative designation. The Wharf 8 Pier 7 Partnership LLC was selected because the proposal reflects our business model in the Marine Industrial Park, and having a mix of commercial and industrial uses underwrite the cost of marine infrastructure in the park. The Marine Industrial Park is challenged by millions of dollars worth of infrastructure investments that are needed. The most valued contribution of this project proposal was the construction of a new pier. If you observe the Marine Industrial Park right now, you notice that there's very little infrastructure to support ship-to-shore berthing, piers, and docks, and really no facilities to small to mid-sized vessels. The project also proposes actual marine industrial tenants to utilize the new pier. While the Marine Industrial Park Master Plan and Master Chapter 91 license gives us some flexibility to allow general industrial and commercial uses in the park and contemplated this new pier, the addition of buildings on the pier ultimately is not permitted through our license or our master plan. The state's regulations do not allow commercial buildings on piers in port areas, so ultimately the school and retail restaurant uses cannot be permitted. While our Marine Industrial Park Master Plan update that's underway can make a strong case for this type of mixed-use project, we will need a change to the state regulations. Since 2009, we've been working with the state's Office of Coastal Zone Management on changes to state regulations that would include this issue. The environmental regulation change process has been challenged by a lack of consensus with the stakeholders and also limited state resources. It's gone off, it's gone on. Our recent communication with the state reports that the regulation changes for port lands for this issue may be included with other waterways regulation changes and may move forward. It may get a priority list under the Baker administration. We'll know if this is true within the next few weeks, and we'll report back to you on July 17th, hopefully with an extension if things move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Is this the first extension?
No, I believe it's the third extension.
When, what's anticipated construction time then?
Well, the regulations would need to be modified through the State House, which could take, a couple of months. They then need to go through environmental permitting. Since, it's a water-dependent use, it'd probably be 8 to 9 months after that, and then probably an 18 to 20-month construction schedule, so a few years out.
It just seems and it's so hot down there.
I know. It's just this regulatory issue that you can't build commercial on piers, and we haven't built new piers in the park in decades. So it was just a glitch that we need to address, and hopefully the state has the right language in their drafts. It's really just getting it through the process.
So the extensions have been the result of the bureaucracy or the result of financing or?
No, no, it's truly the land use issue, that, you know, our master plan showed a new pier, but really nothing else. It was, in a way, it was orphaned. The master plan never suggested a building or anything, so it was never anything that was flagged. When we put out the request for proposals in 2012, we were just kind of casting out a net to see if there was interest, and there was a lot of interest. But the regulatory approvals we have for the park, we thought, you know, could be modified through a simplified process to make this work, but ultimately it just came back to the regulation that says no, and we need to modify that.
Okay, any further questions from the board? Motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8. Request authorization to enter into a fifth amendment to the lease agreement or a restructured lease agreement with National Color Corp. doing business as Seaport Graphics for additional space. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. National Color Corporation has been a tenant in 12 Channel Street since 1994, where they occupy 19,000 square feet. They are currently also licensing an additional 3,000 square feet on the same floor, that floor being the 8th floor. Their lease has expired, and we're asking to amend the current lease to include the additional 3,000 square feet, to increase the lease premises to 22,000 square feet for a 4-year term through 2019 with one 5-year option at very attractive triple net rents. And EDIC is not spending a dime.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
And it's good to see you back, Dennis.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Item number 9. Request authorization to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the City of Boston to provide 3 years of funding for the operational needs of the Mayor's Office of Economic Development in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million. Bob.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Director Golden, Secretary Pomos. The city has requested financial support from EDIC to ensure that the Mayor's Office of Economic Development is appropriately funded to implement its mission of streamlining and supporting areas of focus that contribute to Boston's economy. In the interest of cooperation and promoting the work of the Office of Economic Development, EDIC now seeks to enter into an MOA with the city. The MOA provides that EDIC will make 3 annual payments to the city in an amount of $500,000 to support the operational needs of the Office of Economic Development. According to the terms of the MOA, the agreement shall commence on June 1st, 2015 for the first payment and the 2 subsequent years thereafter. And also, this is subject to the availability of funds. And total expenditures will not exceed $1.5 million.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item number 10. Request authorization to change the name of the Office of Jobs and Community Services to the Office of Workforce Development. Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Secretary Bolhemus, and Director Golden. As the chairman mentioned, we are requesting authorization to change the name of the Office of Jobs and Community Services, more commonly referred to as JCS, to the Office of Workforce Development. The work of JCS began back in 1985 pursuant to mayoral executive order, and since that time, they've been successful at providing a wide range of services to the residents of the City of Boston with the goal of promoting economic self-sufficiency, advocating for lifelong learning, literacy, job training and placement, and supportive services. And during the past year, JCS has focused on realigning their priorities to reflect the mayor's economic opportunity agenda. To that end, their primary focus moving forward will be to build competitive workforce development initiatives and policies that will put Boston youth and adults on career paths toward economic security. It is therefore timely and appropriate to propose a name change that will better highlight the agency's concentration on education and workforce development. I'd also like to introduce Trin Nguyen, who is our current director of JCS, should you have any specific questions for her or myself.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Heather or Trin?
Well, I'd like to see who she is.
Yeah.
Hi, Trin.
Okay, hearing no questions, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Item number 11, the director's update. Do you want to share anything, Brian?
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 12, personnel.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. We have a few items for your consideration on the EDIC agenda. We have 3 travel items. Laura Meridia from the Planning Department. This is just retroactive. Her travel was Houston, Texas from May 11th through the 13th with an expense travel of $950. Kimberly Burson, JCS, Senior Research Associate, traveled to Baltimore, Maryland. This was funded by the SkillWorks, or the Boston Foundation, and that will be June 17th through the 19th. We have Brian Robinson, also JCS, and he will be traveling to Atlanta, Georgia. This will be paid for by CFED, which is the Corporation of Enterprise Development, and that will be this Tuesday and Wednesday, May 19th and 20th. We have 1 resignation. George Brown from A&F reside on May 8th. We have 2 contract extensions, Duncan Andrews and Christian Gonzalez, and they will be extended through September 30th, 2015. They're both from the A&F department. And we also have 3 appointments. We have Victoria Abolina from the planning group. She's a senior planner 1 with a start date of June 8th. We have Sarah Meyerson, who is under the Director's Office and is the Executive Director of the Office of Olympic Planning, and she will start June 1st. And third, we have Megan Hegarty, and she will be part of the Director's Office. Her title is Director of Operations with a start date of June 15th.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we need a motion to close and adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.